Okay, welcome to the Social Chameleon Show, where we have meaningful discussions on a wide variety of topics and ideas to help you on your journey towards self-transformation. As always, show notes, links, and links to things we talk about, and book recommendations can be found at thesocialchameleon.show. Today, I'm talking with Teresa Porter, inventor and founder of Sirrine Yoga. Sirrine Yoga is online yoga videos designed by Teresa for people of every body type, yoga level, and are convenient videos ranging from 15 to 45 minutes. Teresa started this after discovering a love and passion for yoga and wanted to make it easy for others to experience what she discovered. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Tyson.
Yeah, hi. So can we start off? Tell us about your journey, how you discovered yoga.
Sure. So my first experience with yoga was shortly after I graduated from massage school in '99. So I started going to yoga to see if it helped relieve my upper body tension from massaging. So that was my first experience, and I really loved the teacher, and I always left feeling lighter, relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of started my interest. And then after I had my first daughter in 2002, I had severe back problems, and nobody could diagnose what was going on with me. I had an MRI, went to see several different doctors. And I started doing my own research at that point to see what I could find out for myself.
Yeah.
And it came back to that yoga and Pilates was really beneficial and healthy for your back. Mm-hmm. So I started doing that on a regular basis, and my back started feeling a lot better.
Nice.
But at the time, my back, I was in such chronic pain that if I stopped doing exercises, the pain would come back immediately. So I had to be very consistent with adding that into my routine, and gradually over time my back became stronger and I started feeling a lot better. So that's what got me super interested in figuring out the why. So if something works for me, I want to figure out why does it work. So then I went and enrolled at Scottsdale Community College, and I took the training there, and I've been teaching since 2004.
The training to be a yoga teacher?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And then what'd you do after that?
I started teaching at local gyms, and I remember my very first teaching job, I was so terrified in teaching. I remember the night before I came up with my lesson plan, I figured I was going to do. And I was driving to the gym to teach my first class. I was like sweating bullets. I was so nervous. But since then, I've had lots of experience, and I've taught in a lot of different settings, different gyms, different wellness centers, and I've worked one-on-one with people, done privates and small group settings. And so now I've just learned to tailor how I teach depending on the group that I'm working with.
Right.
And also a lot of how I teach comes from my 18 years of being a massage therapist. Mm. So I see where people hold their tension and stress on a physical, mental, and emotional levels. And that's helped me learn how to use yoga as a tool belt of solution to address the aches and pains of my clients and also myself, and being a therapist for 18 years.
What made you, you were working in places, and that's nice and safe and simple, and why'd you venture into the online world? What happened there?
Over the years of teaching with students, I kept getting a lot of feedback. My training, my background is called Iyengar based. Mm-hmm. So our Iyengar, which is very alignment based, which for me, when I was researching where I wanted to get my training, it made sense with my massage therapy background to learn the alignment principles and have it be more of a therapeutic approach when you practice yoga. So when you incorporate the alignment principles, it can retrain the memory of the muscle to have better posture, better alignment. So then it becomes, like we're sitting like this. So it becomes therapeutic, right? So you have better posture, better alignment, and it can help address the aches and pains that you have from bad posture.
Okay. This is as soon as you see that word, you hear that word, everybody's like, I'm good. I'm actually sitting, so.
Right. I see that a lot when I teach. And then I said, how's your posture throughout the day? And everyone's like this, and then they automatically sit up.
Posture's wonderful. What are you speaking of? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's how I've taught over the years. And so I kept getting a lot of feedback that I taught very differently from other instructors, and they really liked my style of teaching. And I would have clients that would move away and they couldn't quite find that style of teaching. And so, they kept asking me, you should do something online. I would like to do something online. And then the more I started researching what was online, it was very, and I started asking my students, it was very intimidating what they saw. Mm-hmm. So it was the body types, really fit 20 to 30-year-olds that were doing yoga, but it was very advanced yoga, a lot of it. And so I just wanted to bring in the students and clients I've worked with over the years that have all different, fitness levels, shapes, age, to show that yoga is for every lifestyle. No matter where you're at, there's always a starting point.
Yeah. That's kind of been my experience with doing yoga. I know, when I first kind of started doing it, there wasn't really, a guy in a class was like crazy. I used to get a lot of, dirty looks and stuff, like, what are you doing here, kind of thing. And I always wanted to try it. And it was always that, intimidating, like, you're not the typical person that belongs in here. And then that was the thing I liked when I discovered, your class. And, it's like, I can't do this move. It's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Come over here. Let me show you like this different way. And it's like, oh, well, this is now obtainable. This is not something I can do. And whatever, it's been how many years now. And it's, my flexibility, and you feel so much better and feel so much, more energy, and I can do these different things. And like, I remember before when I was trying to give my son something behind me, and I could actually reach around. I'm like, oh my God. Before I'd have to be like, and I was like, I could just effortlessly do that in the car. And I'm like, wow, like that little things are just so, so much better. And, and that was the thing I liked about, like I said, about your style, is like those things I always wanted, but every time I went somewhere, it was always that stigma, that thing, like, oh, it's this big, either, just being a guy is like wrong in yoga classes. And it's like, oh, you can't do anything. Well, that's why you don't belong here. And it's like, well, it's a catch-22. If I don't get to come, I can't become on your level. Like, I'll never win,
Right.
So, I like that. I'm glad you've been kind of done this, and you're one of the rare teachers that makes this yoga space obtainable and not intimidating. And that's the thing I like. And then, and then it brings me to the question of, why should we be doing yoga? And what are the benefits, in your opinion, of doing yoga?
Oh, there's lots of benefits. The thing that I use it the most for, like I mentioned earlier, is like a tool belt of solutions, right?
Like that.
Over the years of working with such a wide range of clients and body types, from stay-at-home parents to professional bodybuilders to professional football players to triathletes, or just the average person wanting to gain more range of motion and has, the low back pain because they're now in their 30s, 40s, and they're kind of feeling their age.
Right.
How can you use yoga in small amounts is my thing, and address those aches and pains. Right. And I've had to learn to use it that way myself because I have 3 kids, I work. I don't have an hour every day to practice yoga. So how can I break it down into small amounts? What poses can I do within 5 to 10 minutes that can address X, Y, and Z? And that's how I've learned to teach my students. And I have my massage clients that come in and they just have severe low back pain. Okay, so I ask them, are you stretching your hamstrings? How, and most of them are like, no.
No, my back hurts, not my hamstring. Listen, lady, sorry.
Yeah. So if you have low back problems, a lot of the time it's coming from tight hamstrings. So it's all connected. So it's learning how to know what muscle groups to stretch or strengthen. Sometimes it's a combination of creating range of motion, flexibility, and strength to help the aches and pains go away. So that's, I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just, you always hear, people doing yoga. Like, I just want to know, I know there's benefits. It's just like, why should we be doing it? Like, personally, I didn't have any of those problems. I had some old injuries maybe that, and I never was really, one that stretched before. Wasn't really emphasized when I was younger, and, we were playing sports and stuff. But I knew there was benefit there, and I didn't have any of those problems. And that was what I was like, I don't want to get. I've never had back problems. I don't want to get it. And I knew there was, I can't scratch my own back, and it's like, that's why I started doing yoga, like preventatively, especially as I got older.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so you could use it as a preventative to rehab, and then a lot of athletes too use it to cross train. And that's one of my other niches that I really love, is working with athletes and teaching them how can you use yoga to help you train for a bodybuilding show, or, help gait with your gait cycle, which is when you're running or walking. If you don't work on releasing your quads and your hip flexors, that's going to affect your range of motion when you're running or walking, climbing, etc. So that's another thing, is you can use it to cross train, basically for any sport, really. It's just depending on where you're at with flexibility and strength. You could use it to, when you create flexibility, that helps create range of motion, which helps prevent injuries and also helps to build more muscle if you have more flexibility. And
I tell you, it works great for the golf game.
Yeah. And it shortens recovery time too. So there's lots of different reasons how you can use yoga and how you can use it to address your aches and pains. But the benefits there's super long lists. So I think it's more of people learning what it can do for them, or say they have an ache or pain, they have low back pain, or maybe they deal with anxiety. That's a whole other string of things, like depression, anxiety. Their mind's constantly going. So then those are the other principles you can learn on the yoga mat, is what poses, what breathing techniques can you learn to help address your anxiety? What do you do when you have anxiety? So one of the principles that you learn with yoga is learning to become present. And that's very hard in our society nowadays, because we're bombarded with information technology, all this busyness that people think they have to be busy. But if you come back to your breath and just focus on your breathing, making it even and continuous, that can help lower anxiety, because it helps you be present in the moment. When you're constantly thinking of all the 10 things you need to do and where your kids need to be in your whole day, like right now, that can cause anxiety. I deal with that, trying to balance what my kids are doing, my work schedule, but I have to break my day up into sections. So like this hour, I'm getting my kids off to school, and then I come home, I use the next hour to get ready to go see clients. And I see clients till 2:30, and then I go pick up my kids. Like, I literally have to sometimes keep bringing myself back to be present in the moment, be present in the hour. I can't do anything about the rest of the day, because right now I'm doing this right now. I've learned that a lot from yoga, but it takes constant practice. Be present. When you are present, it lowers your anxiety too.
Can you share some techniques that are simple and kind of easy to help with lowering that anxiety? Like, what are some things you found that work best?
Breath, just breathing in itself can help with a lot of things. So if for those of you that are not familiar with yoga breathing.
I'm taking some notes, sorry.
With yoga breathing, it's done in and out through the nose. And a lot of us when we breathe, it's shallow. We're in our chest. And yoga breathing is in your belly. So when you breathe, you have to work on dropping your breath from the chest down into the belly. And one technique that I teach my students is to put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. See what hand goes out. So a lot of people, again, they're breathing here, not in their belly. So when you focus on dropping the breath down into the belly, your belly and your rib cage should expand as you inhale. And then as you exhale, it's coming back in, and you're drawing your belly button towards your spine. And just working on making that even and continuous, that can help calm your mind down, which will help lower your anxiety. So just breath in itself can help. Specific poses, I don't know how familiar your audience is with poses, but just any type of forward bend. So if you're sitting cross-legged on the ground and you bend at the hips and take your forehead down to the ground, that helps calm the mind down. So like child pose, forward bend, standing forward bend, any of those can help calm the mind down. And then also a version of Shavasana, I teach this a lot, is if you're right against the wall and so say this is the wall right here, and you scoot right up the wall. So your butt's right against the wall and your legs go straight up the wall like this.
That's one of my favorites.
What?
That's one of my favorites.
Yes. So there's several things that are going on there. You're laying down in Shavasana, but your legs are elevated above the heart. And when you do that, it acts as an energy reversal. So it can help either energize you or it can help calm the mind down. So I actually use this one a lot. So if I do my morning, I'm with clients and I come home and I'm like, whoa, I just want to take a nap, but I can't because I have to take my kids to dance and guitar and all their activities they do, I'll either do this with my legs against the wall, or I'll go lay on my bed and I'll prop up like 3 pillows up. So my legs are elevated above the heart. And I just set the timer on my phone. I turn my phone off, but except for the timer, and I'll just zone out or listen to calming music for 5 to 15 minutes. And I tell my kids, hey, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to take a little power nap. Sometimes I fall asleep. Sometimes I don't. But with elevating my legs above the heart, that helps to energize you. Kind of it's like a reset button.
Yeah.
So you can use that as to help increase energy, but you can also use it to calm the mind down and help with anxiety.
Yeah. You've got a bunch of videos on this, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I do. Yes.
I'll link that in the show notes for you guys, so you guys can go ahead and reference these videos, and then use these for breathing and energizing and stuff. Like I said, that up the wall one, that's my favorite. I always forget that it has all those benefits. I just like doing it. It just feels good in my hamstrings, you know, to kind of get them against that wall and kind of let them stretch out and stuff. That's what I like.
I use that a lot with guys that have really tight hamstrings or hip flexors, and they can't sit in pike or straddle on the floor because of that. So when you take your legs up the wall and you do pike, straddle, or tailor pose, which is like making your legs in a diamond shape, you have the use of the wall to help you stretch, and then gravity. So you have 2 things working in your benefit to help you deepen the stretch in the poses that would normally be hard sitting up for you.
Probably why I like it. Lazy man's yoga.
Yeah, it's a lazy way of stretching.
I like that. So,
but I do have one specific video that shows those 3 poses and it explains the benefits, and we can share that with them.
Yeah, we'll link that in the show notes, you guys. So you can easily get to that, and help get you going with your day and help you, when you're. And those are so easy to do. I mean, you can go anywhere, and I mean, you're in the office or something, lay down, up against your cubicle or whatever.
As long as you have wall space or a chair. Yeah. Something.
Yeah. Instead of the extra cup of coffee, at 2:00 in the afternoon, we shouldn't be drinking caffeine. It's looking for that little boost. Here you go. This is something simple, and then it's not going to affect your sleep at night when you're trying to get to bed. You're still ramped up from that 2:00 cup of coffee you had. So that's good. I like that. Do you have any recommendations for someone that's new to yoga?
Recommendations as like trying to start doing yoga, or
so somebody that's new, either they haven't done it or they really maybe not find an awesome teacher like you. What are some things that can help somebody that's new, either wanting to get in or just getting into the yoga thing? What are some good things you like to kind of start people off
with? If they can find a teacher that is really good with giving them variations and modifications, that's really important, because you always want to learn the foundational principles of any pose before you make it harder, whether it be with flexibility or strength. Once you have those foundational principles, you can build upon that and increase the flexibility, the strength. But if you don't learn that, that's when injury can come into play. If you don't learn it correctly. So say for instance, someone's trying to learn cobra pose, which is when you're laying down and you're pushing up and your elbows are back. That's one that I've seen a lot that people do it wrong. They want to pop up and they shrug their shoulders, and then they're going to hurt their neck and their low back. So there's a progression for just that pose. But before you would come into that pose, you would need to warm up the back and the core and the shoulders before you would come into that. So I was giving a little bit more detail there, but to back up. So depending on where you live, just kind of do some research. Start with the basic yoga class. Do not do heated yoga for your first time. I hear that so much that people have gone to like a power flow heated class for their first time, and then they don't want to do it again because it was super hard physically, but mentally too, because of the heat, and then you add the flow to it. So don't ever start with a flow class if you're brand new.
Okay.
Always start with like more maybe of a simple restorative, simple yoga class. And once you've gotten that down, then you can build up to a flow. Flow should come after you learn the basic principles of most of the yoga poses. And then as you learn those concepts, and learning transitioning, I mean, there's a lot that goes in to be able to flow when you're in a class. So something that's really basic, and find a teacher that resonates with you, with how they talk, how they describe, all of that will make you more excited to go back. Rather than being like, oh, I know I should be doing yoga, but I really don't like the class. I really don't like the teacher. So
yeah, and I've been to several classes like that where, you don't want to ever come back. It's like, dang, I want to do yoga, but man, fuck these people. This is ridiculous. Like, I've been to one yoga class before. This lady was, she was like hardcore. I don't know if she was a bodybuilder or whatever she was. And I'm like, lady, like, whoa, slow it down. Like, I was hurting for like a week after that class. I'm like, this isn't a yoga class. Like, this is not what, especially if you're introducing somebody to this, or this is their first time or whatever. Like, that was probably one of the worst classes I've ever been to. But yeah, definitely. Does your YouTube channel have anything? Is there like a beginner section or anything on there? Or
yeah, there's a couple. There's a 13-minute yoga wake-up sequence that's really simple that they could try.
Okay, we'll link that again in the show notes. And then also, I know on your website, in the members area, there's some beginner stuff as well, right, in there?
Yeah, well, I have a blog post of my top probably like 5 to 7 videos that I recommend to my massage clients if they're having issues with certain things. But for a beginner, it would give them some simple poses to try, and there's a few sequences on there. So putting multiple poses together to try in a sequence.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get together. We'll get those linked up for you guys, so you guys that are new or just starting yoga, you guys can get that as a good foundation to get in there and learn the right way and find pleasure in this and stuff. And
another thing if you're new is be realistic with how often you're going to do it. That's another thing I see that people get really frustrated. They're saying, I'm going to do it 3 to 5 times a week. Well, if you've never tried it before, I would say realistically say I'm going to try 1 to 2 times a week. And even if it's for 15 to 30 minutes, then once you've gotten into a routine of adding it into your schedule, then maybe you can build up to doing it more. So again, it depends on how you're using it. If you're doing it as a workout and that's the only thing you do to work out, that's one thing. But if you're learning it to help with anxiety, then you'd use it different ways. And again, you don't have to be on a mat in a class.
Right.
Once you learn the concepts, you can use it at work. And this is another thing I've heard a lot from my students that really makes me excited and happy is they're at work and an issue comes up with a coworker,
right.
Or even I've been working with high school football players, and one of them shared with me that they use yoga breath at school when they're stressed about an assignment or they don't understand. They're working on math and they're getting anxiety or stress because they're not understanding. He's told me that he used his yoga breath to calm down and try and figure it out.
Right.
So you could be anywhere. Just come back to using the yoga breath can help you too.
What are some other common challenges or excuses you find for people doing yoga?
For not doing yoga?
For when doing yoga or not, whatever. What other common things you hear, excuses or not, challenges they have doing yoga?
They don't have the time, which to me is just an excuse. You will spend your time where your priorities are.
Yep.
So something that a lot of my students and clients hear me say, it's a saying I live by, is something's better than nothing. So if you have 5 minutes in the morning to stretch, use that 5 minutes. It's better than not stretching at all.
Right.
And I use this almost on a daily basis. So I have a little routines I've come up with before I work with clients or when I get home from clients about to do my afternoon with my kids. Mm-hmm. And literally sometimes I only have 5 minutes, but I use that 5 minutes to stretch my low back, my upper body, then I get up and get ready and go to work. So the fact that you say you don't have time is just an excuse. So when I teach big classes and I ask people, how many of you stretch outside of class? Like almost always nobody raises their hand.
Yep.
So I said, how many of you watch TV? They're all like, so I said, okay, so you have time to watch TV. So rather than sitting on the couch, get down on the ground and do these stretches that we're doing sitting down while you're watching TV at the end of the day.
There you go. That's where it's at.
So no excuses. I don't have room for excuses.
I don't play that either. What about some other common challenges people have?
The number one excuse I hear that just like really annoys me, to be honest, is that they're not flexible enough.
What? No.
I know, right? Oh, I'm just not flexible enough to do yoga. And I'm like, no. All the more reason why you should start. Because
but that was part of like you know, that kind of intimidation, like I was talking about earlier, when you go into yoga classes, like, you know, well, I can't do this. And then people are like, oh, fuck, well, too bad. That's not my problem. You know, and, you know, having a teacher that will take the time to say, that's okay. I know you can't do this. Like, that's fine. Do it this way, or try this down level. Like that's something that's necessary too.
So if people that say they're not flexible enough, again, that's why it comes back to finding an instructor that can give you variations and stages to work on progressing to whatever the final pose is. Mm-hmm. But props, like blocks and straps, sitting on a rolled up yoga mat can help, or a blanket with tight hips. I mean, there's lots of different things. You can use a folding chair. Mm-hmm. So again, learning how to use props can really help with that flexibility piece. Yeah. So years ago, I had the opportunity to work with a professional bodybuilder, and he came in for 10 weeks and did private sessions with me. And let me tell you, he was so unflexible.
No, the bodybuilder? No.
Yes. And I teased him because he'd walk in shuffling like an old man, and then he would leave standing taller and like walking normal for his age, in his 40s, right?
Funny. You think a bodybuilder would just be the pinnacle of everything that has to do with physical fitness?
Not so much. The flexibility piece, again, they know it's important, but they spend so much time training and lifting that they don't take the time to integrate that on a regular basis. I mean, I've worked with a handful of bodybuilders, and I see it all the time. They know they should be doing it. But with him, he had such limited range of motion on some things that we had to use a folding chair. We had to use the wall. We had to use 2 blocks for certain poses, blankets. And then we got to a point, because he was doing it with me once a week, and then he actually started integrating it at home, the concepts that he would learn. And we actually videotaped some of his sessions, and that's also on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, we'll link to that.
Showing how to use props, and he started getting better. Then we started taking away some of the props, and he could do like a runner's lunge without props, or he could do triangle pose instead of 2 blocks. We'd use 1 block. So there's lots of different ways to increase flexibility. But I always like to tell people, you don't come into something being a master at it, right? Everybody has to start somewhere. And people are like, oh, you make it look so easy, or, you know, you don't need any props. Yeah. But I've been doing it for a long time. But if I go into a class to take for myself, and it's an advanced class, I feel like, oh my gosh, I have a long ways to go. Like, I can't take my leg behind my head and do a wrap, you know?
Oh, I know. I see that crazy stuff.
So yeah, so not being flexible enough is another bad excuse of why you shouldn't start. There's always a starting point, and you can baby steps, and it's being consistent is key for increasing flexibility. You can't do it once every couple weeks and expect to get results. You have to be consistent at least a couple times a week. Yeah. On the flexibility piece, just another story with a bodybuilder was, I worked at LA Fitness for years, and my classes were pretty big. And the general manager at the time would always see my classes finish, and all these people would be leaving, and he'd be like, oh my gosh, your classes are so big. He's like, I need to do yoga. Like, okay. Like for months this went on. I heard it every week, and I was like, oh my gosh, just stop saying you're going to come.
You're not coming to my class. Just don't bullshit.
I said, just don't say anything. And so I literally heard this for like 6 months. And then he started training for a physique show. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm just getting so tight. I need to do something. I'm like, come take yoga. Well, I've been hearing you say it for 6 months. So every time I'd see him, not every time, I'd be like, okay, well, it helps with this. It helps with this. You increase flexibility, you're going to get more range of motion. Your recovery time is going to be shorter. You're going to be able to lift heavier. And finally, he started coming once a week. And he's like, oh man, I could lift heavier the next day. And I was like,
I wonder who was telling you that.
I've only been telling you for several months. And then I was like, come twice a week. And he was like, oh my gosh, Teresa, twice a week, you're pushing me. I'm like, okay, well, do what you want. And then he started coming twice a week. So I used to teach on Mondays and Fridays, which was a good spread out time. So he started coming on Mondays and Fridays. And guess what? His muscle tone started getting better. He started developing abs more and back muscles more.
Wow.
And then he moved away, and I hadn't seen him for 5 years. He lives in Texas now. and he saw me on social media, and he's like, oh my gosh, Teresa, I'm training again. He got engaged, and he has a daughter, and he gained weight, and he got out of shape.
Mhm.
And now he's like, he got back into training for shows, and he's like, I need to start doing yoga with you again. He's like, I don't want to do it with anybody else. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, there it is.
So we started doing Skype sessions together.
Oh.
And again, every time he was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I need to keep doing this. But it's the consistency part,
Yeah.
you know? And if you're the type of person that, you know, you're not going to be proactive and do it on your own, find a way that's going to hold you accountable, whether it be signing up, going to a class. You could try my online videos. You need to have
get a friend. So
yeah, you need to have an accountability piece to it, because I've worked with clients over the years. They know they're not proactive, and they know they're not going to do it on their own. So that's when I've gone in and I've done stuff with them one-on-one on a regular basis, or they're like, nope, just tell me what I need to do, and I know I'm going to do it. So there's, depending on what your personality type is, well, you'll know what you need to put in place to make you accountable for adding it into your lifestyle, if that's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my challenge too. You know, if I don't schedule something, if I don't pay to be somewhere, you know, I'll just keep working. And the next thing you know, it's dark. And I'm like, I didn't do anything today. So that's what I got to do with myself to schedule. I got to schedule myself some workouts in, or I just I'll miss them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I know with that consistency, I know over this past Christmas break, I had finally, you know, made some really good progress with my flexibility. And over Christmas break, I kind of decided, like, yeah, I'm gonna take Christmas off. I'm gonna hang with the kids. I'm gonna let my body kind of relax. I was kind of getting, you know, a lot of aches and kind of things that were kind of nagging and kind of weren't fully healing up.
Yeah.
And then come off the new year, and I go into class, and it's like, I could touch like further. Like, dang, just 2 weeks of not doing anything. It's like, just like that. It's like gone. It's just like,
yeah.
It takes like months and months to get progress, and then just in a blink of an eye, it just goes away. I was like,
I know that part sucks, right?
Yeah. Like the worst part is, and it took me, I don't know, maybe another 2 months to get back to where I was in December. I'm like, so no long breaks for me anymore. I've learned that it's just you just can't do it. It's just
right. That's why you go back to something's better than nothing.
Yeah, right.
So even if you were taking time off, you could have done 5 to 10 minutes of stretching at home on your own.
Exactly. And that was the lesson I had to learn the hard way, you know.
Right.
And it's okay. But you know what I started noticing after that though was when I've been sitting too long, I could feel my hips starting to get a little tight. I'm like, oh, these are different things I never felt before, because you know that tightness was in that sitting position. And then I had worked on bringing it up, and I have a standing desk now, and I try to stand as much more. But now I notice when I sit, I can feel that tightness in the hip coming in. And I was like, oh, look at this. Like, you know, you start to see these things, and it's like, oh, wow. You know, so then, you know, I know, okay, time to get up, because I can feel that starting to kind of set in again.
Mm-hmm. So those are some of the videos that that's in that blog post, is one to help release the low back and the hips.
Okay.
And then one for range of motion for the upper body. And those are 2 that I do almost every day. And sometimes if I'm working from home and I'm doing a lot of office work, I'll make myself get up. I'll go in one of my kids' rooms, and all I'll do is the low back twist, and then you use a block to help open up and release the hip flexors.
Yeah.
And then I do a range of motion thing with my arms. In 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. I take a step away from the computer, and I come back and I can like think better. I'm feeling better. I'm energized, and I can go back to working whatever it is I'm working on.
Yeah, and that's a good tip, because not only, I mean, are you getting that yoga break, but you're also getting a chance to refresh your brain and kind of, you know, maybe let some things linger in your mind a little bit, getting up away from the computer, looking off into the distance, you know, all these things. Everything's so here nowadays, you know, your phone, your laptop, you know, and then your eyes get used to this small range of motion. And then those are all good things. I mean, not what an extra bonus to have a little yoga break, but you get a chance to stand up, walk around, look off in the distance, refresh yourself. And it really does. I notice, you know, when I get in that mode, or I get in that funk, and, you know, just standing up and kind of walking around, getting that blood going or whatever, you know, step outside or whatever, come back. Those things really do help. And sometimes you'll have those little, you know, that little thought, you're like, oh, that's what I've been trying to, that's what I've been stuck at. And you get those little things and stuff.
So sometimes I hear this a lot from entrepreneurs, and something I've had to put into my routine is is we'll wake up when we want to start working right away, right?
Yeah.
So wake up, we'll maybe eat breakfast, and we'll sit down right at our laptop and we'll start working.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, like you said, it's like noon or 2 o'clock.
Yes.
And I've had to make a conscious effort to do something for me 20 to 30 minutes before I start my day working. Otherwise, it doesn't happen because my days are short. I have to be done by 2:15, 2:30 to pick up my kids.
Right.
So I'll drop them off if I wasn't able to go do whatever before, and I'll make myself go for a walk. I'll go to the gym for 45 minutes to an hour. Then I'll come home and start my day.
Yeah.
Because if you don't implement those habits, you're going to start taking time away from you, and you're that much more productive and creative, and your mindset's in a better place to get more done, have better ideas if you take time for you and be away from your computer and disconnect for a little bit. And I'm always amazed, like I'll be stuck on an idea or something I'm trying to figure out, and like I'll go out for a walk or I'll go to the gym or whatever, listen to my music, and I'll come home like, oh, it just popped into my mind. I'm like, that's what I need. And I'll write it down and they'll come to me. But there's a saying, let's see if I remember it right. Where energy flows, energy goes, or something like that.
Something like that, right? Yeah.
So like if you're creating energy flow in your body, things are just going to flow better than if you're stagnant and you're not moving around.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing I noticed too. Like, if I don't set that time in the morning to me, I'll be on here 12 hours, 10 hours. I won't even move sometimes, So I've got to set that time in the morning for myself. And that's kind of the thing that was hard to do, because I used to think like, well, I'm taking an hour or two in the morning to do these things. That's 2 hours I've lost already. I don't think I get done. But I've come to realize that those 2 hours actually make the next 6, 8, 10 more productive, more meaningful. So actually this perceived loss that there was actually wasn't there. And actually, I actually was missing out on more gains because I was in this space. I was refreshed. I had a cold shower. I went on a walk, or I went to cryotherapy, whatever it was I did in the morning, get out in the sun. Sometimes I don't get to see the sun. I wake up, especially I know with me, I work at home, and I know sometimes you do the same. There's not really a need to go outside,
Right. Yeah.
So I have to take that time in the morning to get outside, put some sunshine on my face, take the dog for a walk or whatever it is, to kind of get myself going and get that energy going and get the thoughts flowing, get the things kind of going before I don't ever get the opportunity to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you don't take care of you and you're an entrepreneur, you're the one that's taking care of your business, right?
Yeah. Or everybody else around you. If you can't, you can't take care of yourself, there's no way you're going to be able to take care of everybody else around you, your family and your friends and other responsibilities you have. Absolutely. Earlier, you were talking about having proper technique. Why does that make all the difference? Why do you preach that? What is with that?
So proper technique comes back to the alignment-based yoga. I just use the word proper technique a lot because people can resonate and understand that better. So I'm trying to think of, alignment, just to break it down in the few basic principles that I usually teach in a class. So shoulder, it's called shoulder loop, which is basically if you have a tendency to round like this, right? You're rounding in the upper back.
Especially we're all on our laptops and we all kind of do this all day long.
We're here, right? We're always
on our phones. Yeah.
So if you work on shoulder loop, which is bringing your shoulders back, slide your shoulder blades down your back, that's proper technique for the upper body. Brings you into better posture and better alignment. So if you're practicing some of the poses, you integrate that into the pose. So say you're doing a standing pose, your arms are out to the side, your shoulders are engaged. It's going to work on your shoulders more. It's going to tone your shoulders more rather than nothing's engaged and you're just holding your arms out.
I see.
So, and then another big one is if you're standing and you have a tendency to arch your back, which I used to, you kind of tilt your hips forward and you're kind of sticking your butt out.
Yeah.
People just naturally kind of stand that way, which I was that way until I learned this principle. So when you learn to draw your belly button towards your spine, which is going to help draw your tailbone down, that helps take pressure off of your low back. And that was part of the reason why I was having a lot of low back pain. So then I started incorporating that if I was in the kitchen cooking, doing dishes, whatever, as I would learn to stand like that, draw my belly button towards the spine, which would draw my tailbone down, which would take pressure off of my low back.
Mm.
But then you start to do that in the yoga poses, puts you into alignment where you need to be, and it works the muscles better. So it helps tone the muscles more. You get better, efficient, quicker results.
Yeah.
And you're not going to injure yourself if you incorporate the proper techniques when you're doing yoga. And then it helps retrain the memory of the muscle. So even when you're not practicing yoga, the muscle is going to create that memory, and you're going to start having that off the mat in everyday life. No matter what you're doing, you'll start to find yourself, oh, I'm rounding forward. Okay, now I need to bring my shoulders back. And you just become more aware of it throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Also, I do acro yoga, and it's funny, like when you're talking about alignment, and it's, I kind of, when I'm in that class and I hear, we stacking, our bones and everything over each other, and it's amazing how much easier the things get when you're using your body in the correct way versus, struggling out somewhere and trying to use your muscles to hold things up versus, straightening out or whatever it be. It's amazing how much easier things get and how much simpler they are. And then the gains are so much greater when you're doing them in the right way. And then you're not learning those bad habits as well.
Right.
Absolutely. So how do you get people to do, or what do you recommend for people to do this, to start practicing yoga on a more consistent basis?
So I would, again, it comes back to what it is you want to take away from practicing yoga. But then that comes back to the piece of education pieces. A lot of people don't know what yoga has to offer or how it could help them. So say you're listening to this now and you do struggle with anxiety, then you could start to learn what poses. And actually I have a blog post just on that, poses to help with, I think it's a blog post. I'm pretty sure. I have a lot of blog posts.
We'll link to that.
Then you can know, I want to just use yoga to help lower anxiety, lower my stress level. Maybe you want to use it to increase your energy. So then you would start doing research on what poses and what techniques you can use to do that. And I think I have a different post on the energy one. But so if you're wanting to learn, or if you're wanting to do yoga, or you've heard yoga is really good for you. But what I found over the years is people, when they think about yoga, I know it's good for me. But what it comes down to is they really don't know what it's really about.
Yeah.
So you can use it to help with what I just mentioned, increasing energy, lower anxiety, help with stress, help with depression, all of that. But it also can be a physical element too, right? To help increase flexibility, endurance, balance, coordination, which is another huge thing as you get older,
right,
is you start to lose your balance and coordination. Or you just want to use it to cross-train. So just depending on what it is you want to use, or if you know why you want to use it,
right,
start researching maybe classes in your local area that you could take that would help with that. Do your research, figure out what the classes are like, do your research on the instructor, where they got their training from, what their style is. And then, like I said, just start with like 1 time a week, 2 times a week. Just be really realistic with what you can add into your schedule. And that's the part where I see people set this big goal. I'm going to start doing it 3 times a week, but I've never done it before. Right. Yeah. But then they're like, oh, geez, the first week I didn't do it at all, so forget it. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Right.
Is just try and be consistent with 1 time a week, or even using it in small amounts. Maybe trying some of the videos that we're going to recommend and figure out when you can fit it into your day, whether that be at home or taking a class. Yeah. And also having the right space in your house where you actually have room to do it is another piece I hear a lot. It's like, I just don't have the room at home, so I'm not going to do it. Well, you need to create the space. So you literally don't have the floor space, then you need to do some de-junking. Yeah. Make some room for it.
Your house is that crowded, you have another problem.
Right. But like, so for instance, one of my favorite spaces I like to do is my daughter's room, because she has the most space that's generally clean that I can go and do it in. And the sun comes into that window in the morning. So I like it because it's warmer in that room.
Oh.
I don't like in my downstairs, like the ceiling fans are on and it's cooler. Yeah. I don't like that. I like it to be warmer, and I like the sunlight coming in through the window. So that's generally where I like to do it personally. So knowing temperature wise, the
Yeah.
space, have a designated space. If you don't, pick out a space in your house that you can have, get a yoga mat, get some props
There you go.
that you can, start using for that. And then if you're not sure what props or what yoga material you'll need to start with, you can actually go on my website, and I have recommended basic yoga props to start with, which is a strap, a mat, and a block.
Okay.
So,
And I'll like I said, I'll link to that as well, so it's easy for you guys to get that. What are some common things that stop people from doing yoga long term? Like, what are the things that kind of creep up that you've seen?
like you mentioned, and I've mentioned, finding a teacher that doesn't resonate with you, or you get frustrated because they're not giving you variations and modifications. I've heard of that a lot. So they're new to yoga and they go into a class and they see everyone doing the hard version, but the teacher doesn't break it down and show them a simple way to start. They get really frustrated and they don't go back.
Right.
So that's why it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, is do your research, figure out, or ask around, ask friends that that practice yoga regularly. Hey, do you have any recommendations or no teachers in the area that, teach this way for what you're wanting, and get recommendations. Or you might just have to try a handful of teachers. I mean, if you got one bad one, go try and take some other classes to see if you can find the right teacher. So that's one of the things I've heard is frustration because the teacher doesn't make it simple for them, or it's intimidating.
Yeah.
That they get into a good routine, they don't have the time. And this is another thing that I've recommended is actually schedule an appointment with yourself in your phone, or write it on a calendar, whatever it is, how you plan out your day. Block off that time and keep that appointment with yourself. Otherwise, you can feel it. I mean, I could do that every time, but again, I have to keep that appointment with myself. I can come home from dropping my kids off at school and be like, oh my gosh, the dishes are stacking up. And I'll go upstairs and be like, oh my gosh, laundry, I need to do laundry. And it takes willpower.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to ignore all of that for 20 to 30 minutes, and I am going to take this time for me. You can give yourself the allowance of taking time for yourself, and don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah, personally, my calendar is pretty empty for the most part, but that's one of the things that's always scheduled in my calendar. And it's on repeat, and it's, until the end of time, I have those stuff scheduled, that and picking up my son. That's about the only thing that's constantly on my schedule. I try to keep my calendar pretty clear. But if I don't schedule, like I said earlier, if I don't schedule that time, it'll just evaporate. There's always something to be doing, especially when you work for yourself, or you work from home, or all these different things like that. It's easy to just get distracted by, and even if it's not really a distraction, there's always something to be doing. Whether your kids want to do something, or whether you, like you say, you got dishes or laundry, or there's work, there's always things to be done. If you're not taking that time for yourself, eventually it's going to catch up with you, and you're going to be farther behind. You're going to be a lot worse off in the end by not taking that time for yourself in the early days of your life, to gear up and be set up for later in life. And
another on that note is actually, so if you are a parent or your significant other, communicate your wants to them. Let them know, say, I have to do this regularly, not feel guilty about it. But
right.
I'll tell my kids, okay, we're doing X, Y, and Z later in the day, but right now I'm going to go into my room. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go to the gym for an hour. So communicate to them, if they're old enough, they could take care of their needs or whatever. Yeah. Just say, I'm going to take 20 minutes. I'm going to go stretch. Please leave me alone for 20 minutes. And then I will help you with X, Y, and Z. Right. You communicate that to them. They know that their needs are still going to be met, that you're not ignoring them. Because I've heard a lot with students, well, my husband will ask me to do this, or my kids will pull me away from this. I'm like, you have the right to say, I'm doing this for me. Give me 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then I'll come help you.
Yeah.
You don't have to stop right in the middle and help them right then, unless it's an urgent need, like they got hurt or whatever. But I'm amazed at how many people, they're like, oh, yeah, I haven't thought of that. And I'm like, oh.
Say no.
You're allowed to say no. Yeah. But again, that comes back to balance, right?
Yes.
When you're being selfish and not like, but again, you can take 20, 30 minutes for yourself and not feel selfish.
Yes.
And communicate that to your family so they know what your goal is, what you're trying to accomplish. And you'll be surprised of like, oh, okay, I'll wait till you're done or whatever.
Yeah. And that's it. Before, my son has asked me like, oh, Dad, do you have to go now? I'm like, no, I don't have to. But if I don't go now, then I won't be around when you're older. So we can take this time now, or I can be around for a lot longer. Which do you want? He's like, okay, I'll see you later. But when you kind of frame like, listen, I understand this doesn't make sense now, and we're in this moment, but I know if I don't do these things now, I'm not going to live as long, and my quality of life isn't going to be as good. And I know that's more valuable, and I understand that, and I've got to convey that message to them and, to my family. Say, listen, no, this is my time, because I know it's going to add years to my life and more quality to my life in the long run.
And then it's also setting a good example to your kids, right?
Yeah.
That you're doing healthy habits and you're doing them on a regular basis. Again, there could be a place where you're becoming selfish and you're gone for hours and every day, but generally most people know where that balance is. Yeah. But it's showing a good example for your kids that you're taking care of yourself and you're doing something on a regular basis.
Yeah. Even maybe try to incorporate your kids into what you're doing. Maybe it's possible, maybe it's not. But even, your children especially, they see what you're doing more than what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And I see that, and I'll look around and I see something happening and I'm like, I didn't even have to tell you, like, that's awesome. Like, you're just copying me in a good way.
Right.
Hopefully I'm doing good things. And then when you're seeing what I'm doing, looking for an example or looking for how to do things, boom, there it is. You're just doing the good things that I was doing. So
yeah,
be careful. They're always watching
Oh, it's amazing. They're like, oh, and I'm like, where did that come from? They're like, oh, I saw you doing this. And I'm
doing it. And yeah, so what are they watching you doing? Are they watching you work out and do these different things in yoga, eating healthy and, not grabbing the Oreos, instead grabbing the carrots, Like, they're watching that stuff, no matter what you tell them, be careful.
Absolutely.
I want to swing back around. Earlier you were talking about working with the pro athletes and then the high school. What is it like working with those types of athletes? What are you seeing there? What is it like?
So working with the high school football team that I'm working with, that they haven't been taught to stretch correctly.
Mm-hmm. I remember that when I played ball in high school. It was not something we did.
I am amazed at how many of them do not have the flexibility for their age. I tease them that they are moaning and groaning like they're old men. And they kind of laugh, but they get it. But and a lot of it is range of motion in the upper body and the back and the lower body, like the hip flexors and stuff, because they train, right? They're doing all this endurance, cross training, running, lifting, but the deep, correct stretching part, a lot of them don't do. Yeah. So that's what I'm working with, is just helping them create range of motion, and mainly the low back and the hips and like the upper body. Before I'm keeping it super basic. And then, and also balance and coordination is another one they really struggle with. Yeah. And then the present parts, I've really been honing in on them, because again, they are so on their phone, right? Yeah. They're so here. It's a totally different generation than when we were raised. We didn't have the constant distraction. So I've challenged them each time I work with them to work on being more present, whether that be in conversation with their friends, their parents, their siblings, to actually listen and not be here, right? Oh, what? Yeah. Oh, because to me, that's so disrespectful. I get so irritated when that's done to me. Yes. And so that I've challenged them to that, and I've challenged them to take all their notifications off their phone. Good. I like that. That's a constant distraction, right? You're always on. Oh, I got an Instagram like, oh, I got an email. Like, you're constantly on, and that boosts your adrenaline, right? Yeah. And your stress level. And then you're always looking for that dopamine, and it's like the constant, and then eventually you get kind of overloaded, like you need more dopamine. Like, I'm not getting enough likes now. Yeah. So I asked them to disconnect. So one of the students, he took all his notifications off, even his text notifications. Nice. And he's like, I found myself kept wanting to grab my phone. So he's like, I only checked it at the end of every hour. Oh.
Wow.
So that means he's checking it way more than every hour.
Right. That's incredible,
so
right?
Crazy.
Yeah. But they say just having a phone sitting like on a conference table on a desk, everybody has low level anxiety, just that being presently there.
Yeah.
And that, I don't care. I'll go all day with, I don't care if my phone even makes noise. My phone doesn't make noises. And B, I don't give a shit if I go all day without checking it. You know, there's nothing there that's happening that's important.
So that's been, my time. Yeah. So that's one thing I've been working really on is being present. Awesome. And then another thing is being present when you eat. Ooh. That's another thing I talk about a lot with is, so what are we always multitasking? And I'm very guilty of this. Oh, I'm going to work on my laptop while I'm eating lunch. Oh, because I don't have time to sit and just eat. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've been working on and trying to make a conscious effort. I don't check social media when I eat anymore. I still do sometimes work on my laptop when I eat. Yeah. But like, and then when I'm with my kids, we have a rule, no phones, no electronics at the table when we're eating as a family. Nice. We sit and we eat as a family.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's another thing one of the kids told me, and he said that he's slowed down. So I challenged them to slow down when you eat, actually taste your food, the texture, what does it taste like? What does it smell like? And actually put your fork down between each bite, right? Yeah.
My fork's usually loaded up for the next one.
So he told me he started doing that and he actually likes eating more because he's slowing down, he's tasting what he's eating. And then a couple of the guys told me that they're eating less because they realize they're full.
Yeah.
And then anyway, so yeah, so that's another thing I've been working with. And then the more professional is them just learning how to fit it into their routine and making a time for it to help with the range of motion and flexibility piece. So just to give you a heads up, I probably have like 5 more minutes.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I know we're coming up on time, and I really do thank you for being on here. Let's kind of get this wrapped up. I know I want to be respectful of your time, and I know you got to get going to the rest of your life and helping all the people you're helping in your life. I'd like to remind everybody about our giveaway we have. We have the Ego is the Enemy and Obstacles Way, the book and the coin that's going on through the end of May. And then also I want to remind everybody, Teresa does have 2 weeks free for her online yoga. I'll link to that, SirrineYoga.com. Go ahead and sign up for the 2 weeks free. Give it a shot. Give it a whirl. See if Teresa is somebody that you like. I personally really love it because, you know, like I said several times in this thing, those are the things in the past that have kind of, inhibited me from continuing the practice. Was you get in there and you get intimidated. I still struggle now when I look around and I go, you can put your leg on top of your head? Like, I didn't even think that was humanly possible. And I just got to remind myself, that's not where you're at.
I still can't do that.
But you're so much, for that. The other week, I finally was able to get my, I don't remember what pose it was, but I was trying to get my heel to touch my butt. And I'm like, oh, just like, and there's other people are like, what are you talking about? My foot's on the back of my head. You can only touch your butt. But that's where I'm at. And I know that if I keep going and keep practicing, I just worry about myself and what I can control and where I'm at.
Learn to accept where you're at. That's the only way you can progress forward. If you're constantly comparing yourself to others, it doesn't do you any good. It's damaging more than anything.
Absolutely. So, if you guys are new to yoga, just starting yoga, or you're advanced, Teresa's got everything from, the beginner to all the way advanced in there. Give it a whirl. Get the 2 weeks free. If you like it, stick around. Teresa, do you have any more recommendations for anything for people? Either, books, other resources and things, other than your stuff?
Oh boy. There's so much out there. Like, to recommend one thing, I think is hard again. So I think maybe research more the benefits on what yoga has to offer, and then decide what it is you want to take away from practicing yoga or starting to incorporate it into your lifestyle. That will help you determine where you want to go, what kind of classes you want to research, or what online tools you want to use to start incorporating it into your routine.
Into your lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And to be patient. You have to be patient with yourself and know it takes time. because you're learning to use your body in a new way and move, and you're going to feel really awkward and uncomfortable at first, and just know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I'd like to issue you guys a challenge like I do every week here. I'd challenge those of you that haven't tried yoga, especially the guys out there. I know this is a big thing. It's not just for girls. Guys, get out there. I'm in the classes. There's a lot more guys I've noticed coming in and out of classes. So get out there, guys. If you haven't tried it, try it. And for those that have been doing yoga for a while, try and take your practice to the next level. You know, that thing you've been avoiding or that thing you've been struggling with, work on that. Getting to the next level, finding that pose or the thing that was scaring you, intimidating you. Get out there and try it. And that's the challenge I'd like to issue you guys here this week. My final thoughts here is, Teresa, is there anything else you wanted to cover? Anything that I missed that you wanted to make sure, share with people?
Just give yoga a really good try. Yeah. And you will be surprised at what ways it'll change your life forever. Mentally, emotionally, and physically. And it helps you connect your mind, body, and soul if you really start to incorporate what yoga has to offer. It's been very life-changing for me on a physical level. And again, just being able to handle the stress that comes with being a parent, working, trying to keep balance with everything. Right. It's helped keep my sanity.
Amazing. And where can people find you on the internet and what you're up to nowadays?
If they want to follow me on social media, it's at Sirrine Yoga, and it's SIRRINE Yoga. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest,
Twitter, the whole thing.
Twitter. And then my website is SirrineYoga.com, and I'm sure you'll post a link to that.
Yeah, I'll put all those links to that stuff for you guys. She got the blog there. There's definitely the shop and stuff to help people get the things that they need to start and then carry on their yoga practices.
Yes.
Teresa, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And thank all of you guys for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. As always, you guys can follow us on our journey all week long at Win the War From Within on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And like I said 1,000 times in the show, all the links will be available at thesocialchameleon.show. Until next time, I really thank you guys for joining us. Have a great night.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and all your favorite social media and podcast platforms. And until next week, have a great night.